Shraddhananda, then Miriam.
Hi, Greg. Hi, Sam.
Hey, how are you?
Can you hear me okay? I'm on a different.
Yes. Yes,
Okay,
yes.
I'm not used to talking on this one. So I have a question about myself.
Okay.
So all of the health practitioners have decided that I indeed have post-COVID long haulers, whatever the latest
Right.
term is. And I'm dealing with two parts. One is the fatigue.
Okay.
My energy level has increased actually just a week ago, but prior to that, it was like just 2 weeks of barely functioning fatigue. And then I would have 5 to 7 days of being on par. And this has been the cycle since September. So one question is about the fatigue. And then the other thing is I thought I was having vertigo, but I started physical therapy, and physical therapist said that actually it's orthostatic intolerance, which she's seen in a lot of people with long haulers. What happens is either just standing, if I try to stand in place, or if I go from being seated to standing, once I stand up, I feel like I'm just gonna tilt and fall forward on my face. And I usually have to either sit back down or just start walking and it'll go away. And she said she thinks it's because the blood is pooling. So it's a circulation issue. And sometimes I do, when I stand up, I feel like my thighs especially just feel like lead. But it doesn't stay there, it goes away.
Okay. And how long ago did you have COVID?
May 4th. But it attacked my nervous system. I had through the beginning of August, late July, early August, I had symptoms of either MS or Guillain-Barré. Like my legs would give way from under me, and my right arm, I was dropping a lot of things. And
any history of autoimmune issues?
no, not at all. I've been tested for everything.
Fatigue.
I went to neuro, they found nothing. I've had 3 MRIs, they found nothing. Been to pulmonology, they found nothing. Only place I haven't been is cardio.
So you can approach this a couple of different ways, kind of. I mean, they're in the same vein, but this is what I would do. You know, because like you said, like it doesn't always hit everybody the same way. So, you know, you have to kind of look at like, okay, there are certain things that like the long haul COVID afterwards, there's certain things that we know are kind of a constant. And then there's things that are going to be very individual, you know, from person to person, it's going to be different. And so this is what I'd like, you know, on one level, you know, I think tackling the fatigue is also associated with some circulatory issue and immunity still, you know, even though everything is been resolved as far as the virus is concerned, it's still like, you know, it trashed the hotel room while it was there. You know what I mean? Like it just ran amok. And so you could use different forms of time, like you know, time Thuyonol, time Geranol, things of this nature. And I still wouldn't cross that out. But at first, I would probably go kind of hard on the cinnamon. Like I would use cinnamon or cassia or something of this nature. And there's several reasons why. And so like I want to talk it out, like why. Mine would be a softer approach to this, but the reason that I like the cinnamon for this is cinnamon is like a full body stimulant. And when I say stimulant, it's not like taking caffeine or, something like that. It's just it stimulates body's processes. Like it just, if something is sluggish in the body, cinnamon or peppermint are two things that you can use to jumpstart things to make them like function better. Like herbally, you would use like cayenne pepper or African pepper, something like that. And you take several dropperfuls and just keep jump starting the body, the system. And essential oils wise, it's cinnamon or peppermint. And in this case, cinnamon's a much better choice. And cinnamon's very good for fatigue. It's very good for reestablishing proper digestive function. But it's also a treatment for certain kinds of circulatory issues, and definitely a very strong way to enhance the immune system. And so you're getting a lot of things crossed off the list by just going straight forward with the cinnamon. Um,
Are you thinking to digest it? Because
yeah,
I'm
yeah,
inhaling cinnamon and hyssop all day, every day.
yeah. I would still keep inhaling it, but I would start taking probably a couple of drops, maybe at first 2 times a day, but I'd probably work up to like maybe 4 times a day and even increase the dosage a little bit. Like, maybe make sure your body can tolerate it and then work up to maybe 3 or 4 drops a couple of times a day. And then after that, go 3 times a day and then even 4 times a day until you're feeling strong even without it. And so I think you are going to have to ingest it. Like
Okay.
inhaling is helping, but it's not enough. The the blood the blood issue with the dizziness or the vertigo or the diagnosis that you got. I mean, a lot of times with vertigo, we can usually knock that out with hyssop and that it's not going away. That usually is, the diaphragm's tight, but more importantly, like up in the neck, the sternocleidomastoid, which are these two rope muscles that kind of pass over, they pass over like the carotid sinus and everything. And so when circulation is off to the head and to the brain, that's usually the culprit. But yeah, something else is going on there, and I just can't quite put my finger on it for a minute. Just give me a second here. Let me just sit with this. How is your breath? Like if you take a long, slow, deep breath and then try to exhale real slowly, like you're able to have a long, slow breath, or does the breath just empty out really quickly?
Uh, it varies. Either I can take a deep breath and exhale completely, or sometimes it does still get stuck around my sternum. But if I work with it for like up to 3 breaths, then I can breathe all the way into my belly. I've really been working on the breathing a lot.
You have a helichrysum?
Yes.
Let's have you do let's have you do some helichrysum, really focusing in on the throat and the throat minor and this upper part of your chest. And you could even put a few drops on the upper part of the chest, but a lot of it's going to be inhalation, like right up in here. Like,
Okay.
not quite the heart area, but like, right below the collarbones, like right in there.
Hmm.
I think you have like some fascial restrictions in your bronchioles. And as much as you try to treat it like spasms and things, the restrictions, they're a little bit of a different animal. And helichrysum should unwind that.
Okay.
I would say let's have you just do a bunch of inhalations. I don't think you need to take it internal. I think just inhalation should be enough. If you wanted to augment it, you could put a drop or two in water and gargle with it and just kind of coat the throat with it more than like taking it internally. Just kind of keep coating that area,
Hmm.
and see if that is helpful. But basically, it's like you'd get like a fascial lesion like in your back or in your leg or something that can then throw off like how a muscle functions and works. And you have the same thing but in the bronchioles, so it's
Hmm.
throwing off how the bronchioles are working. And this is like an odd question, but do you have any thyroid issues?
No, tested clear for that.
Tested clear? And did they drop a scope down in your throat and look at it and all that?
No, just blood work.
Okay, no, that's fine. The reason that I'm asking is like sometimes when they do a procedure down in the throat, like with a scope or something, it can throw like the vocal cords into a bit of a spasm, and there can be a weird like breathing issue that starts to happen in the throat. I mean, they basically call it paradoxical vocal cord syndrome.
Mm.
And the vocal cords open when they're supposed to be closed and then closed when they're supposed to be open. And it presents as a respiratory issue, but you become like non-responsive to all the respiratory treatments because it's not the respiratory tract.
Mm.
And so, but usually that almost every time I've ever seen it, there's always some sort of thyroid issue. Like it's either the thyroid's not functioning or they've been dropping scopes down into the throat to like look at the throat, and they like bump the vocal cords or something and throw that area into a kind of spasm.
Mm.
If things don't respond, I mean, we can still explore that, but it looks like just fascial lesions on the bronchioles to me.
Okay.
Yeah. And would make sense with having the respiratory, having COVID. Like, I mean,
Mhm.
that kind of makes sense. And so, can you treat that for like maybe 3 days with the cinnamon and the helichrysum, and then like email us and let us know how you're doing? Because
Yes.
if it's not like making even somewhat of an improvement after 3 days, then we need to change it up a little bit. Like
Okay.
you should start to see something in 3 days, and if it's not happening in 3 days, then we need to change treatment.
Okay. I mean, the fascial lesions make complete sense to me.
Yeah.
Because prior to COVID, about 6 months prior to COVID, I had a 2-month episode of RSV.
Oh, it's fascial lesions. Yeah. That cinches it up for me right there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It would not go away for anything. And I was coughing like
Yeah.
severe bronchitis for two
Yeah.
solid months.
Yeah.
So,
So let's see what that does, and we might give it a little bit longer, but I'd like to see where you're at in 72 hours, and just see how that's responding. And yeah, we'll go from there. So like just email and let Samantha know, and then we'll go back and forth. We're traveling, but we're just going up to Chicago, so it's not that big of a trip for us. So,
Okay.
yeah,
Intake the cinnamon, and then 30 to 50 inhalations of the helichrysum,
yeah,
focusing on the throat minor,
right,
and like the higher sternum area,
right.
and
Yeah.
apply it to the sternum area
Yeah, yeah, I
Okay.
would, and even a little bit of a gargle, like a drop or two
in
on
the
water,
gargle.
and then, you know,
Okay.
just kind of get it in the throat, like kind of lean back and, you know,
Okay.
to kind of get it down in the throat. Like, I mean, the other way of doing that is you could put a few drops in water and then just kind of slow sip it, like, you know, like you're sipping, you know, where you're just kind of constantly coating that area like you would like with a sore throat or
Yeah.
something.
Yeah.
You could do that too. Because it's just like the closer we can get the helichrysum to that, the helichrysum will unwind a fascial lesion like nobody's business. We just got to
Okay.
get it as close as we can to that area and then let it do its thing.
Okay.
And if that's the case, I think that will be the ticket. Yeah.
Okay. Thank
Yeah.
you so much.
You're so welcome. Keep us posted though.